Welcome to another episode of the Transforming Lives podcast panel. And we are all here today. Welcome, Kate. Welcome, Mitzi. And of course, welcome to our guest, Dave. But before we continue, I'd like to invite Kate to lead us into our 1 minute meditation. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you, Sharman. Welcome, everybody. If just for a moment, if it's safe to do so and it feels right for you, if you can close your eyes, and if not, just to rest the gaze off the tip of your nose, and to just allow that glorious breath to come into your body, and allowing it to release as it does without needing to change a thing. This glorious vessel that you have knows exactly what it needs to do to nourish you with each inhalation and with each exhalation. And as we sit in this space of awareness of breath, you can just allow a little bit of awareness of what this glorious vessel does for you every moment of every day, without you needing or having to do anything. Allowing breath in and breath out. And may you know that this space of awareness is available to you anytime by just turning inward. And whenever that feels complete for you, I invite you to join us back here.
Thank you, Kate. Well, I am really excited because today we have an amazing person, Dave Berger, who teaches leadership, runs networking groups, and I have had the pleasure of knowing and working with this gentleman for, oh my gosh, it's probably been about 10 years since I've been networking with him at various functions. He is truly a trailblazer. He's built up several really great networking groups, and he teaches leadership. He is a very spiritual man. He is very connected to his church. He has a lovely wife. And one of the things I absolutely love is when we're at our networking meetings and she goes off to work, she always comes and gives him a kiss on the cheek before she heads off to work. And I love that. It just shows the humanity. So without further ado, Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, how you do it, and then we will get in and ask you some questions.
All right. Thanks, Mitzi. Thanks for that introduction. I was thinking it was some other guy, but I noticed I'm the only guy on the screen, so I think it's me you're talking about. But of course, Dave Berger, Leadership and Personal Development is the main thing that I do. And I do run some networking groups, and really the intent for those groups is to help myself and to help others around me who were looking for business or looking for a place to associate with other business people that want to grow, not just in dollars or in profits, but also grow themselves as a person. Now, in the leadership side, that's something that I believe it comes to me a little bit natural, but what I found in the corporate world when I was working, I had some great success and I didn't know why. And it's when somebody brought me to a leadership meeting and they started talking about some of the things that helps you to succeed. Then I found out, okay, so I was doing that, and that. So maybe that's where I got the success from. And because of that, I was more drawn to that environment. And now I will never give up this environment. That's me.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about sort of who you work with, like who your typical client is and what the process is that you go through with them when you're working with a client.
Okay, so typical client can on two sides. I do personal clients because I do coaching as well, leadership coaching. And in terms of a business client, it could be somebody that needs to learn some leadership principles or even some financial principles. I work from a book that has 47 financial principles. So those principles are stuff that if you follow, especially if you take it on early, you're going to gain the success that you want, especially if you're living here in North America. There's really nothing that can stop you if you start at an early age and apply those principles year after year, year after year, and it compounds, and that's really the bottom line. So that's one of the things. Of course, as I mentioned, the leadership coaching, I do that. Those programs are customized. I will not do it on a broad base. It will have to be somebody who is hungry for success, and then I'll go through that process because that's really tedious and it's really time consuming. Apart from that, I have the low touch on my phone where I can reach people that are kind of self-driven and want to do it on their own. I can provide them information to do that as well.
Nope, I think you're muted, Charmin.
Oh, sorry. Before we continue, Dave, can you share with us how you became so passionate about leadership and personal development?
Well, I'll expand on that a little bit. I used to work with a company, and mainly what I was doing is I was an account manager visiting different companies across the GTA, the Toronto region, and that was basically to get our products on their board. So when they're designing their products, some security company, X-ray machine companies, they were able to buy those products from us because our product is already designed on the board. So it's there when I go into those companies. Sometimes initially it's hard to get in, but as you get to know the gatekeeper and build a relationship there, the gatekeeper would kind of reference certain people to you. And when they have some emergency, they would call you. And I was able to build a relationship out of that and be able to get into all of those companies. And getting in those companies produce dollars that I've never heard of, $10 million, $5 million. And it's just like some numbers. But when you really look back, sit back and look, that was a lot of money. But it's just the relationship. I remember a company, IBM. I used to go over on Friday afternoon about 5 o'clock and meet with one of the main guys who was in charge of the design. And they were making some kiosks at the airport at the time for JetBlue and a whole bunch of different airlines. And so he tells me what his problems are, and I find solutions for those. And he thought I was great, but I just bring it back to my company on Monday morning and said, listen, this is what this gentleman is doing. How are we able to help him? And we're able to provide him with a lot of the products inside that kiosk. And that in turns grew our business significantly, right? That's Friday afternoon when everybody takes off. And this guy is there as the guy in charge of the operation. So I go and I sit with him. And I was able to gain it. So I didn't do anything magical or spectacular or anything fancy. I just do these little things and it creates results. And as a result, because of that, it drives me now into want more and more and more of this, right? So that kind, I guess they kind of inject the passion in me as a result of showing me the results that you can get by just being a good person.
Wow.
That's where the passion came from.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Kate or anyone? Because I have another question.
Yeah, I do. I'm really curious about this life connector.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for you to share on that. I love connection. I love connecting people, and I'm so curious what you mean by life connector.
Okay, so when I meet someone, there's two ways I'm going to explain that. When I meet someone, I'm looking to connect with that person for life,
Mm.
I'm not looking to make a relationship for a short period of time. I'm looking for that to be a connector for life, right? And then I want to connect other people who want to be connected that way as well. So that's one part. Also, in 2012, I joined a company called Life Leadership. And they have a similar mentality where they like to connect people, or they like to stay connected with a whole bunch of people because it's obviously good for business. So those are the two main reasons why I am a life connector.
Thank you so much. I love those words together. I love your definition of those words. And I also love where those words being linked together take me. I often say that I see myself as the spider because I love building the web of connecting people and
Right,
connecting people
yes.
to resources and people to people and all of the things. And so I love this term life connector, and that I'm in it for life. Like, that's a huge statement. So thank you so much for sharing that, Dave.
Thanks for the question, though. Great question.
So, Dave, I would just like to go back to leadership because I'm very excited about this podcast. Because there were a period in my life where I read so many leadership books. But my question to you is, like, who is your role model in the leadership space, and which philosophy do you embrace?
And I am more a generalist in that sense,
Mhm.
where I work with some people that are mentors for me and coaches for me, but I look at information, just common sense information as well. One of the things that I got really early was 5 books that will produce the results or give you the information that you need to carry on this journey, right? So I embrace those 5 books, and those books are Mitzi knows those books well as well. I know because she and I had this conversation before. How I Raise Myself from Failure to Success, um, Confidence and Power in Dealing with People, The Magic of Thinking Big, Personality Plus, and what's the last one? Oh yeah, the last one is, did I say The Magic of Thinking Big? I think I said that. Personality Plus, and How to Win Friends and Influence People. So those 5 books, if this is all you do, is repeat that every year, the success that you're going to gain from that in relationship and in business is going to be tremendous.
You know, I think you really hit on something right there, which, and I think it's something that people often miss, which is when you read one of those sort of core, amazing, fundamental books like The Magic of Thinking Big, you know, How to Win Friends and Influence People. These are books that you read not once, but you read them over and over again because your knowledge builds from them, and you're always in a different space than you were the last time you read them. But these books have stood the test of time. And if you go back and you read them again, you see them through new eyes and you pick on up new nuances, and you can build on what you've already done. And I think that that's one of the things that I think that's really great that you're putting out there, is that, you know, go back and repeat it. You know, don't just read it once and then, okay, like I'm done with that book. No, when you find something that's really good and helping out leadership, revisit it. When you're doing your coaching with people, are you working one-on-one? Are you working in groups? Are you doing some, are they totally on their own doing a course? Or like, talk a little bit more about sort of the different types of processes.
Yeah, that's a big question. So it's mostly one-on-one. So at the beginning of a year, or if an organization has something that they want to accomplish with their staff, then we'll put together a program for that. But at the beginning of the year, sometimes I'll do a group coaching. But generally, it's a one-on-one coaching program where I basically sit down, interview the person, find out what that person is looking for long-term, and find out how we're going to set short-term goals to get to where they want to get, and basically go through the program that way for them. So it's totally customizable for the person who is looking for it.
What are some of the most interesting transformations or changes that you've sort of seen, some of your clients have, or some of the best results? Like, give us some, I don't know, some things that sort of wowed you when somebody sort of went through the process or something like that.
Typically what we find, some people are just looking for something simple. Like, for example, a politician came to me and he was afraid of communicating, and he has no choice. That's basically their role, to communicate. So what I figure is that, okay, so I took down some notes and bring him through a process. And one of the things that I did was gave him some books to read. And after we completed the process, it takes a little time sometimes for this process to end. But after we complete that beginning process, then he feels confident now that he's able to communicate not just to other politicians, but to the people that he's looking for to vote for him as well.
Wow. What are some of the common challenges that you have identified in leadership today?
You really got me thinking now. And it's really probably the biggest thing is something that's been forever, and it's belief. Most people, even though they set out to do something, they don't think that they can accomplish it. The belief is very, very weak. So in leadership, if you're able to show them a way to get there, then their belief will start growing. And it's not something where, like, most people believe instantly. It takes a process, right? And they achieve a little bit and they start seeing more. It's just like when you're reading, the more you read is the more you realize that you know nothing. You just basically open up your mind and it's like, wow, there's so much information. I need to read more. I need to learn more. I need to do more, listen to more podcasts. I have to speed up my reading process. I got to get a book and play it on 1.25, 1.5 times the speed or something, because really I'm so far behind, right? So it's the same here in leadership. You take a little at a time, but belief is probably the biggest challenge that we've had over the years in terms of leadership.
And what are, if I don't know if you can answer this question, but I'll still ask it, what are some of the factors that cause that, or that affects the belief system of leaders?
That one is pretty easy, actually, because it's our influence. So the people around us usually help us to decide whether we can believe or not. And generally, people around you are negative. They tend to say, "That's crazy. Why you want to do that? Nobody has ever done that. I don't think you're able to accomplish that. You don't have the brains for that, or you're not a leader," stuff like that, right? So after, especially as a child, you start hearing that over and over. You have no choice but to believe. And so in other words, that's a negative, that's the opposite of what I call belief, because now you're being pushed down. Whereas if they were telling you that, listen, you can do it, and this is the way I've seen this been accomplished, or maybe these are some of the steps that you need to take, but you definitely can do that, then that changed the mindset completely, right? So it's easy, but it's usually just the people around you. That's really all it is.
Right. They say, it's the books you read and the people you associate with that affect, who you become and who you are.
Absolutely, because you say the books and the people, and you're absolutely right. Because the books are the people too, because the books are written by a person, and that person put sometimes their whole life in a book and basically summarize it for you, and you pay $25, $30 for it, and you're able to get the life of the person in the book, and you're able to associate with that person as often as you want. And that's where you're going to get results.
What are some of the other things that you do with clients? For example, like, do you know, I've heard some people talk about, like, you know, the 5 a.m. club and, you know, meditation, different time blocking, you know, some of these different sort of things when you're kind of trying to get your act together and sort of go through that leadership process. Are there any of those types of things that you kind of work with your clients or have found worked well or found don't work well?
You know, that varies so much. And all of those things work. 5 a.m. it's kind of early, but I shouldn't say that because sometimes I'm up 24 hours. But in terms of meditation, that definitely works well for most people, if not all. And sometimes even for them, it's a process by them doing it over and over before they start getting some kind of results from it. But what I find that works the best is by doing things over and over. So we mentioned for the books, you don't read it one time because you're a different person when you read it again. So the more you repeat the process, is the bigger your eyes are to see the process in a different light, right? So you're getting better and better, and you're seeing more from the information that you have in front of you. So one of the things that we can use is the audiobook, for example, or the podcast, where you're repeating the information over and over and over. So you find podcasts on your subject matter from people that you know are good at that subject, and just keep repeating that over and over. Because the biggest thing is for that to get to your subconscious. So it's fine enough that you can see the logical way of it working, but you kind of need to be for it to be in the subconscious where it's automatic for you to do. And a lot of people talk about gut feeling. That's really all it is. It's now a part of you in your subconscious. So when you're making decision, so you don't even have to think. You can just make a decision because you have the information, the capacity to make the right decision based on all the information that you've gathered so far.
Thank you. Thank you. And you caused me to think of I am reading The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli for maybe the 7th time, right? But this time I'm listening to the audio. And this particular quote that I missed the first 6 times, I heard it this 7th time, where people you align yourself with will determine the outcome of your life. And
Yes.
I missed that quote completely the 7 times that I read it. But I because I'm listening to it and I'm in a different space in my life, I was able to grasp that and replay it. So I agree that you have to read books over and over, and I'm going to adopt what you said. One of your principles that you have persons read the 5 books every year. I there's some books that I really know that help me that I am going to thank you to borrow that principle and embrace it in my own life, where I'll read these particular books every year. And I just love The Prince by Machiavelli. So that's one of the books
Absolutely.
I'll be reading every year.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy. And I can see your success already, and I know you're going to be building on that tremendously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dave, I know you do a program on Wednesdays as well, where you do some interviews with Jared. Can you talk a little bit about that particular program and how it helps business people?
Yes. So that program is really for the business for the most part, because what we basically, it helps them to get out, and it helps their audience to connect with them, right? So, and basically it's just an interview process, a little bit longer than a normal interview, where we sit somebody down and find out about that person. And sometimes, because that person is multifaceted, sometimes one interview can't do it. Sometimes you have to meet that person again and come up with another interview, so that if somebody wants to follow that person or want to really learn about that person, then they have the information there. A lot of things, a friend of mine said something to me and that when you're on Facebook and you meet somebody, they go and research you afterwards. I forget the terminology they call it, but it's kind of like spying on you or something like that. But if they, when you know that people are doing that, they meet Mitzi and they said, I wonder who this person really is. And they go in the background and they start researching her and looking for her. Imagine if they can find these interviews that has details about Mitzi because she did it and she spilled the details, then they can learn about her. In fact, a person did come to me specifically and said, thanks for that interview with Mitzi, with her specifically, because now I know exactly how I need to approach her. So it works perfectly for that reason.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's about building relationships, part of leadership. And, you mentioned your success working with the gentleman from IBM, right? It's because you invested the time to get to know the person and to make those personal connections that you develop that relationship. And then that ultimately can lead to a lot of business, right? That's sort of part of that process. The same as, if you're meeting with somebody regularly in networking groups, you build that relationship each time you see each other, right? Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust, but you don't build like and trust instantaneously. It builds on itself. What other leadership books? What are some of your other books? I know you mentioned the ones that you read sort of over again, but I know you're an avid reader. What are some of the other ones that you like as well?
I like books that coaches are usually good at coach these ball games and stuff like that and have a habit of winning. So those coaches, I have one of the books here. I thought I had one, or one of the books here that is a great little read because it shows how determined it is. And this one is called Winning Every Day. And what you will find is that these coaches are so amazing because winning is such an important thing for them. So what they do for winning and the way they condition their players, it's something that we can apply to business and basically benefit from that. So I use those kind of books a lot. The other book that I like is this book because this is a really good summary, 13 Resolution for Life. And what that does, it looks at all these successful book, a bunch of different successful book, and basically put the principle together in one book that you can follow, right? So when we're going through the 13 resolution, we can find leaders in the past that apply those 13 resolution and see what their journey was and what their success was. So I love coaching books. I love when people are in a bad situation and they're able to struggle, then get over it, get information, get over it, and accomplish the victory. That stuff wakes us up, and that makes great movies as well.
And are there any podcasts other than this amazing one, Transforming Lives podcast panel? But are there any other podcasts that you like to listen to as well?
I browse a lot with audios because when I'm driving or sometimes in the background, audio helps a lot. So I love podcasts even more than any kind of video cast or video movies and stuff like that, because I can double task, dual task, triple task when I'm listening, right? And I know the information is getting in the background. So I don't have a lot of names specifically. I know one of the guys in our group, Thomas. He does a podcast, and I've been on it, and I listened to it, and he has some great information on there as well.
Yeah,
And
Coyote Cast.
exactly, and I know two guys in the States. I don't remember their name off the bat, but I've appeared on one of their podcasts, and his podcast is known. I appeared on his podcast about 3 years ago, and I just got a call the other day from somebody who heard the podcast and wanted to get connected with me for that reason. So podcasts are great, and there's so many of them. Find the good ones like this one. If you don't know where to start here. And you will find after a while, there's so many of them and so many great ones that you can listen, fill up your day, have something positive going in the background at all times.
Thank
What
you.
is
I have, sorry, Mitzi, I have a futuristic question for you, Dave.
Mhm.
With the evolving workplace dynamics, like remote work and the use of AI, where do you see leadership in the next decade?
I just see leadership growing because the workplace, as much as they may not know, they once you get a model, you show a model of a workplace that uses leadership, the others will want to copy because leadership produce results. And most of these business, their result is to get some dollars on the bottom line because they need to stay in business, they need to profit, they need to grow. So if you really need that, you have to subscribe to some kind of leadership system. Because if you don't, your competition is going to lead you. So I see leadership as a big part, even with AI. What AI is going to do is to help us to refine what we do better so that we can be more effective at doing it. But you still need motivation speakers. You still need people to present leadership products and services. AI will not take the place of that. It will just refine it. And so we're just going to get better and better. And that's what we want to do in our future. So if there's a way to speed up that process, which there is with AI, we're certainly going to apply that to the process, speed it up so that we can get results faster for business owners, and not just business owners, but the moms and dads out there as well that needs it for their family.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that question. Because I asked that question because I think it's one of the largest beverage company in Poland now have a robot as the CEO of the company. So that thus I'm asking the question about where you see the leadership, where you see leadership with AI in the next decade. Because for me, I listened to the robot said they don't have to sleep, it don't have to, all the things that human beings have to do. And I am saying if in a year or in 6 months, the surplus of that beverage company triples, right? We have a problem. We have a problem because most companies would want to invest in a robot because they don't have to, do all the stuff that they have to do for a human being. Thus, I'm asking the question because, I read it and I'm like, wow. And so,
I
yeah.
gotta check that out. I have not heard of that, so that's an interesting tidbit that I picked up today.
That is new for me too, so I'm glad you brought that in. But still, with the robots and all, you still need leadership. You're not able to lead the robot, but they need to program the right information in those robots as well.
Yeah.
What are some common stumbling blocks that you find people or places that you find that leaders often get stuck? Like, are there certain things that are frequently a problem that you see when people are first coming to you, that some particular thing that they're stuck with? Or is it really for everybody it's completely different? Or are there certain things that, you know, very regularly you find people are really stuck on?
Yeah, that's a big picture, but I must, if I can narrow it down to one thing, is we're just talking about the future. It is that vision, because usually someone comes in, and if that vision is not defined or it's not big enough, then they have no motivation. They have no reason to really pull forward. And then, even though they have established a vision, sometimes because the process takes a while, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years in some cases. They reach this plateau where they feel, man, this is comfortable. It's good. I can just rest here. This is really comfortable. My life is good. Everything is great. And they stay at that level. So they're not able to move from there because they can't see the vision that they initially have for the 5-10 years in front of them. So they're stuck there. So if we can just constantly program ourselves with the vision and update it, make it bigger if we need to, because sometimes the vision is too small too, and you accomplish it, and then life is over. So get another vision and start accomplishing that vision too. But that is what I see the biggest challenges. And it's not just for beginner, it's for people who are in the process over a long period of time as well.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, which is often, you know, the skill set that takes your business to a certain level. You have to then develop different skills or bring in other people that have those skills to take you to the next level. And, you know, one of the things, I mean, I always think about architects, because they have this amazing ability to, you know, they can envision these skyscrapers or bridges or all these things in their mind so intricately, and then they start to build it. And most people don't sort of have that ability to sort of see something that isn't there yet and envision it and plan it to come out. And well, as you say, like, you know, often you sort of get stuck at a certain level. So, and I guess that's when they often bring you in, is they find that they've built their business to a certain point and they're kind of stuck and they're not sure why they're stuck. So bringing in someone like yourself, where you're looking at it from, you know, different eyes, different angles, having them work through different processes, help them get unstuck.
That's right. Because they'll feel that over a number of years, they're just spinning the wheel over and over. They're ending up in the same place over and over. So, in other words, you could call it stuck, or you could say we're just spinning our wheels. But somehow we need to move ahead. And it's not a hard process because you've gotten to this level already. So that foundation that you have is just something that we can spring off, and so that you can get to the level that you really need to get. Because what we find about good business people is that good people help others to be good as well. So good people do good things. Their money is going in good areas. They want to support, and you'll find that people that are working like a day to day, and they're just paying bills because that clouds their mind. They can't make decision in our society because they're so busy with the day to day activity. So it's when you're able to produce enormous amount now, then it's like freedom. You can do all these things. I don't know if you can read my sign, freedom through prosperity, in the background there, but that's really what that means, is because after a while, you have the prosperity, then you're free and you help others to free. Think free, help your society, the place that you live, the area that you live, because really good people with money produce good results for others.
That's great.
Before we wrap up, Dave, burnout is inevitable in some spaces.
Mhm.
How are you able to control that and even to prevent it?
That's a challenge. And if you're searching, if you really are passionate about doing something, though, you get a high when you get to different levels on your journey towards your success. So in that case, once you're accomplishing, and that's why you would need a coach, by the way, because if you're in that rut where you're just going around and around, or you're stuck, then that's when burnout occurs. So if you're able to move towards your passion, then you will find that burnout doesn't even exist. Right? So it's really that long-term vision. That's the key here. Because even though you think you're going towards it, sometimes you're missing the mark because you're spinning in that rut and you're getting burned out. But once you get back on that road, then you will find that burnout doesn't exist.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
Thanks for the question as well.
As we wrap up, is there anything you want to leave with us? And do you have any more questions, Kate? Mitzi?
Thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciated the space today. And I also, yeah, I don't really know how to phrase it, but I really felt where we also differ, which is so glorious. I really sit in the space of understanding self, and I sit in the space of understanding somatically where things land in our body. And you shared beautiful wisdom of, and you talked about the subconscious, and I love to offer the reframe of perhaps subconscious, actually, just what comes right now is perhaps subconscious lives in our body. Perhaps it's the wisdom of the body that we call the subconscious. Yeah, and that's just kind of landing now. And I know I'm going to go back and listen to this and see how things ripple. But I sit in the space of self-awareness and self-compassion and understanding our earliest woundings as to why we do the things the way we do. And what I really see is how people understanding that and then shifting into this understanding of self through a leadership lens. Like I see a really beautiful coupling, and I right everyone's everything ripples for different people at different times, and I really honor everyone's timeline. And just what I'm really hearing is understanding of self, and then shifts into this understanding of who am I in a leadership role. And I love your different eyes at different times, because I truly honor that in all of us, that, sometimes we can judge ourselves. Why didn't I know this sooner? Why didn't I do this sooner? Right? We didn't have those eyes then that we do now. And to be compassionate with self, that I didn't have those eyes then that I do now, and that life is a practice, right? And as we practice life more, different things in our life ripple. So I just really want to thank you for spending time with us, Dave, and sharing your ripple out to our listeners, and that beauty of we all ripple in a different way, and I'm sure that you're rippling for people, Dave.
Thank you.
Dave, how do our listeners, our watchers, how do we get in touch with you? How do people connect with you so that you can take them on their own individual leadership journey?
Well, you can always call me. My phone number, 416-707-1362, or you could email me, dave@daveberger.com, or you can find me in Meetup, LinkedIn, Facebook, IG, any of those ways that you can get a hold of me. Sometimes I can't get back right away, but I will get back and I will answer. I want to leave one note if I can as well. The note I agree with Kate. I want to leave that note that if you really don't know what to do at the end of the day, get yourself a mentor. somebody that you admire, and somebody that will speak to you directly on what you need to do to move forward. And then get yourself a vision that you really want, because it's going to bring, whether it's prosperity or it's going to bring success to your family, to your business, or whatever you want the success to be for. And once you get those two things, you're good to go. Maybe you don't need me, maybe you don't need any of us at that stage. But those are two things that maybe you should just look at doing. And then if you need us to fill in some pieces in there, then we certainly can do that for you as well.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Mitzi, for another wonderful episode of the Transforming Life podcast. We'll see you next time.